I think the easiest way to stay motivated to do something is to make sure it's the thing that you like, but also to not focus on the numbers, the metrics, the people around you. I think whether it's a race or a run or the leaderboard, it's really easy to get caught up in where you stand in the numbers, in the paces, in the distance. There's always someone to compare yourself to, including your past self and your future self. I think that the best thing you can do for yourself is to stay in the present moment. Know that every day is going to feel different. Know that there are going to be great days on the run.
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. You know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 221. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. Hello.
Hi.
So I guess we should maybe just lead off with the fact we had someone post Eric Goodman. Right?
It was Eric, yeah.
That we hadn't done a Zoom in a while, so we thought let's do a Zoom.
Yeah.
So we'll just plug that right here.
Right here.
It's the shameless plug before the shameless plugs, and we're gonna do one a week from Saturday. So that's the 20.
I believe it's the 28th, but now you're making me second guess myself. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the 28th.
Yeah.
2 Saturdays.
So if you're listening to this on Friday, not tomorrow.
Right.
Like don't.
Right.
You know.
It is the 28th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you enjoy our Zooms, then
yeah, we're thinking like 6 p.m. Central,
Yeah.
7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We don't really get a lot of mountain joiners.
Yeah.
So 5 p.m.
And if you've never done one of our Zooms, you should swing on by. The water's fine. It's just kind of hanging out. It's nothing,
there's no pressure.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, you have to know something or interact if you don't want to.
If you don't want to talk, you don't have to. You can just hang out. But
and we don't just talk Peloton, although I will say it's like 90% Peloton. We do just kind of get on some random conversations, which I love. I love hearing people's information, their thoughts about things.
Absolutely. And if you want the link for that, you should just join the group. If you join the Facebook group for the Clip Out, and we'll post it in there, and you can come on in when it's time.
Yeah, definitely.
So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people this week?
Oh my gosh, I just got home, and you expect me to know what I'm talking about?
You're the one that hit record. I'm just sitting here.
We are going to talk about these treads there's a fix ready. We're going to talk to Dr. Jenn about how to celebrate fitness milestones, and we're going to talk about another Peloton lawsuit. We're going to talk about Met Pros dropping by. Is it really as simple as calories in versus calories out? We've got tons of instructor news. We've got all kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, before we get to all that, shameless plugs. These are the actual shameless plugs now, just to be clear. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, iHeart. Wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. And while you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. If you would be so kind as to leave us a review, that's always helpful. We have a new review.
Woo!
This is from Vegan Mom 3 Girls.
Okay.
So it says...
She's a busy mom.
Yes. And it says, I need to stop listening to the Clip Out.
No.
So says my husband sometimes.
Oh.
But in reality, I need to actually thank Crystal and Tom because of the Clip Out. I love my Peloton even more. I have the tonal. She works out with a Met Pro coach. And I'm studying for the NASM personal training certification. Oh, my word.
Let me know how that is going.
I wonder what level she's at on Best Fiends. But besides being entertaining and funny, the Clip Out simply helps me keep up with everything Peloton. I feel part of the community just listening. So thank you very much. And the leaderboard name is Vegan Mom 3 Girls. So you can go find her there. She said more, but I don't want to bog it down too much. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For the nice review.
Wow.
And so if you've already left a review, because a lot of people have, and you're like, well, what more can I do? You could maybe share an episode on Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, wherever you do your social media-ing. That's always super helpful as well. So you can also find us on Facebook if you want to interact. Facebook.com/theclipout. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com. Oh, one more. You can watch these on YouTube. YouTube.com/theclipout. There's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Run, lift, and live with John Mills.
So joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube is John Mills. Hey, John, how's it going?
How's it going? What's happening?
Bringing that energy. I love
All right,
it.
we're ready to go. We're ready to go. Actually, I almost wasn't ready to go. I couldn't find my Grandpa Shark shirt.
Oh, no.
This is the only one I could find. So I'm thinking about I might have to do some interrogations.
Do you think Erica's throwing them away when you're not?
I don't know.
Because you had 4, and now you're down to just this one. I'm a little concerned. Yeah.
I'm thinking about setting up surveillance, all kinds of stuff. I don't know.
Probably cheaper to just buy a new shirt.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just do that.
I'm just weighing the cost effective ROI.
Fine,
I'm like,
Yeah, you're probably right.
invest in high-tech surveillance equipment or buy another $12 t-shirt. Call me crazy.
You probably onto something. You might be onto something.
So I guess jumping in, Peloton announced this week that they have a fix for the Tread, not the Tread Plus.
That's right.
But the Tread.
Yeah, the smaller Tread. And this is the one for anybody out there who may still be confused, because I get this all the time. The smaller Tread is the one that had an issue with the screen falling off randomly as you were using it. So it should have been a much quicker repair than the Tread Plus.
One would think. Oddly enough, I thought we waited all this time. It turned out it was duct tape, and I thought that was odd.
Well, it's interesting. They actually don't say what the fix is.
They're mailing everyone Gorilla Glue.
No, but what they are doing is sending, now they call him an engineer. I love how you guys just keep going.
And it's a gorilla. A guy in a gorilla costume comes to your house.
Costume, and he has to glue, and he just... You're good. You're good.
He says it in gorilla,
You're all good.
whatever that is.
However you speak gorilla,
Right,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have does he pause for the commercial at the end? Does he hold it up?
Yeah.
Just so everybody can get a picture.
Right.
While he's there, have him test out your Samsonite luggage. That's a joke for our over 50 crowd.
Yeah, that's some old people that just started cracking up.
Yeah.
Falling all out.
I got it.
They are
I got it.
laughing very heartily.
Okay, but really, this email that they sent out, first of all, was an email. They didn't announce it in their press release. So I thought that was interesting how they chose to go about this, because they had to know the second they started sending these emails out, we were going to get wind of it. Also, John, why do you get this email when you don't have the Tread, you have a Tread Plus? I'm a little curious about that.
Which is odd. When I first read it, I just assumed it was the Tread Plus, because, like you said, why would I be getting it?
Right.
I only have Tread Plus.
Oh, so you don't
I
know.
read it again. I don't know why. And then I went, wait a minute, this is the Tread.
Okay.
Well, towards the bottom of the email, it does give you information on. We don't really have anything for the Tread Plus yet, but we're still working on it.
But I have a Tread Plus.
That's the only reason I can think of.
I have a Tread Plus, and I never got the email.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I have no clue. I have no idea.
They're trying to keep this information off the clip out.
Well, they failed. They shouldn't have sent it to
I will
John.
never get a Tread update email ever again. I have no clue.
But they're not saying, it's interesting. I mean, I know what the fix is. They're going to send people to your house, an engineer, apparently, because now we don't call him a technician. And the engineer is going to probably put some new screws in and maybe some Loctite, and then and then they're going to call it good to go. But the interesting thing is that they didn't say that, but you can go in and you can schedule it. And they also didn't say when you can start buying the treadmill.
Yeah, my initial thought when I saw the email, which Erica still hasn't gotten also. So it's not just you.
Just you. Okay.
Maybe they're only, hang on. Have we entertained the notion that they're only fixing John's treadmill?
Maybe they
It
are.
might just.
No one else is getting. You're the problem, John, and they're going to come over and they're going to fix it. And
I got the email though, what's interesting is that when they announced that they were going to do the recall, if I remember right, that was like a day or two before the last earnings call.
Right. Well,
and so, right.
It was, and I think they are following that same model because I heard that we're supposed to start seeing the treadmills in the stores on the 24th.
Yes, I saw you said that. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the first thing that came to mind for me was they had this 3-month period to do something. You would think they wouldn't want to be entertaining questions about the tread repair, which supposedly is just a loose screen, again on the next earnings call. So my original thought was, oh yeah, they have to say something. They have to say that they worked with CPSC, they got an approved fix. And I was questioning whether or not we would really see that fix. Like, did they realize the fix, or it was just we've
identified it.
We've come up with a fix, but we haven't manufactured it yet.
Oh,
that was my original thought. Like, we've come up with a fix, we haven't manufactured it, but we're going to talk to it before the earnings call. Until you mentioned that, they're talking about putting them back in the showrooms on the 24th and potentially, selling them again immediately after that. So,
well, and my understanding is they're thinking that the sale date will show up. Like, we're going to hear the sale date on the earnings call. So I don't have an inclination, or I don't have an indication rather of, when that sale date's going to be. Are we talking months from now? Is it right around the corner? Because I still think that it's possible whatever they're manufacturing is not ready. But if it's just Loctite, I wouldn't think this is that big of a deal. Just like squeeze some extra glue on it as it goes out the door and we're good to go, right? It can't be that simple. It can't be that simple.
It can't be. So I think my original thought now that we're talking about it is probably right, that it's not quite ready. But I think it makes for a good, update in the earnings call.
It will help.
We got our concept and our design approved through the CPSC. So
But if they thought it was going to be mid to late July, right? And now it's mid to late August, that does not bode well for the Tread Plus. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I think the federal government only running 4 weeks behind schedule sounds pretty on track.
All right.
That's not too bad.
All right. That's fair point. Fair point.
Yeah. And I hear you, though. I mean, the Tread affected like some 6,000 plus machines, whereas the Tread Plus affected like some 125,000 machines. And they were more severe. Like, I know they said that there were some injuries with the screen, but it was more severe. So I would assume that they've got to be really kind of thinking through that thing. And there's going to be a lot more design and conversation and work with the CPSC. So I expected it to take time. But I hear you. It doesn't bode well. It's not like tomorrow we're likely not going to get another email tomorrow about the Tread Plus.
No, I'd say it's going to be several months.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I think if it was going to be that quick, they would have just waited to do them both at once rather than piecemealing if they thought they were, within shouting distance of being ready to announce. Maybe
we'll get an idea of, like, maybe they'll say on the earnings call, this is like what? No, they won't. They won't, because they've already said a million times they're not going to tell us anything till the CPSC, actually gives their okay. So unless that happens, they're not going to give us any indication. Because they're tired of hearing about it. They're so tired of hearing about it.
And I'm still wondering.
It's bad when on the OPP they close off the comments every time somebody asks a question. And they don't close off the comments for anything. Yeah.
That does say a lot.
For nothing. But if you say Tread Plus, you're done. I'm still questioning whether or not, how is it really coming back? I don't know.
I really thought so from the beginning, but I know Tom was like instantly like, you're never seeing another Tread Plus ever again. He said that to me. He said that to me.
Do I have like a collector's item? Is this like?
I think it's at least possible that that's the case. It may not look the way it looks now. Put it that way.
That would not surprise me. So
if I could carry it down into my basement and cover it up with tarp and keep it pristine. 30 years from now, will there be like 10 left in existence?
It could be. You see that there's an Apple, what's considered the first Apple computer, I think it was called Lisa. and that goes for like $20,000 or $30,000. I mean, it's because it was the precursor to Apple, and they didn't make that many of them. And who keeps old technology? And so
I don't know. I mean, we're definitely just making.
Right.
It's just conjecture.
It is conjecture.
Yeah. So speaking of conjecture, do we read anything into the fact that Peloton is ending the T-shirt program for digital members?
It's weird because for years they didn't give it to digital members, and then they started giving it to digital members, and now they're taking it back from digital members.
Do you think people were abusing it somehow?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
It's on their couch. Watching.
Well, I mean, I've always wondered.
I've got 6 of them
running.
Like, I'm not trying to take away from any digital members because I know there's lots of people that's their preferred method.
Sure.
So do not misunderstand. But I will say it would be easy to abuse the system because since it's digital, it's not calculating your mileage. It's not so my point being, you could just be sitting on the couch while it's running on your phone or whatever, and it's racking up a class. Now, at the end of the day, does that really matter though?
I think the real abuse would be if people were creating multiple accounts to get more than one shirt. Like, whether or not you actually did the class, ultimately the only person you're robbing is yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, if they've budgeted, if you're a member and you get a shirt, then whatever. Like, But I think the bigger issue would be if they found that the digital people were I shouldn't say the digital people, like they're all doing it. If there were people with digital memberships that were abusing it and figuring out an end run to get multiple shirts.
But even then, why would you do that? Like it doesn't mean anything unless you put in the work. Like, I just don't even.
Weird.
People are. So I just.
People want free things. You want me to tell you my radio stories of the prize pigs that would come to the remotes to get the passes?
You have a name for
that's
them.
That's what everybody in radio calls them, prize pigs.
But it's
people
funny.
That would just go. I mean, I still remember some of their names, and like to this day, if I do a ticket giveaway at the arena,
they still show up.
I see the same names. They just go from place to place. They want to win stuff. I can't even imagine
but there's
what
always
their houses must look like.
There's always been people that have taken advantage of things that Peloton has done. Do you really think they care about a $7 t-shirt or whatever it costs? Like, I don't know. It's odd to me. It's odd. John,
I won one thing on the radio once in my life, and it was like in
Grandpa
1987.
What'd you win?
No, but I need to win some more Grandpa
tickets to see the Sugar Hill Gang.
I won tickets to Eddie Murphy tour.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Now that's a prize.
That's a prize.
What's hilarious, I was a huge Eddie Murphy fan in 87. So I was like, who do I take? So my uncle was like a huge fan. But my best friend, I wanted to take him. So I took my best friend. Turns out he didn't like Eddie Murphy at all. So I'm sitting there cracking up, and he's just, I'm like, this is the worst ever.
Who doesn't like Eddie Murphy?
Did you stop being friends with that guy? Who doesn't like Eddie Murphy?
Regretted not taking my uncle.
I bet.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
That's insane. I can't even process not liking Eddie Murphy circa 1987.
Yeah.
He wasn't laughing at none of the jokes.
Are you still friends with this person?
Please say no.
I don't stop.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
That's good.
Family first, John. Family first.
87. So that would have been, he would have been like, that would have been right before he filmed Raw, right? That would have.
Oh,
right
man.
Before, yeah.
So he was working on the actual material going into Raw. Oh, John.
He was still working,
That's amazing that you got to see that.
I never got to see him, and he was getting ready to announce a big tour. It was all booked right before COVID, and they had to put the kibosh on it. It was going to go Coming to America 2, and then they were going to roll out with a big tour, for his return to stand-up, and he was going to go play arenas. And I was like, closest city, we're going, because I figured it wouldn't come here. And so because I've never seen him. He's one of the few like comedy legends I've never seen. So I am super jealous that you won Eddie Murphy tickets.
Well, yeah.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I bet.
Yeah. I just brought the wrong person with me.
Yeah.
It sounds it. Yeah.
Should have been like, go wait in the car. Go wait in the car.
You're like, go buy me a t-shirt.
But relative to this thing with the t-shirts with Peloton, I just kind of saw this as aligning to what they've been talking about generally about their funnel, right?
Oh.
Isn't this just another thing to say, well, if you want a shirt, drop 2,500 on that.
But do you think that would really move the needle?
Yeah, like why would
I can't imagine a shirt motivates somebody to pull the trigger on a bike. Like, I get what you're saying,
that's
big
just
picture.
another thing.
Yeah.
It
might be the tipping point. I don't get the metrics. I don't get this. Now I don't get a shirt.
They get so
And
many.
I don't get the shirt. Yeah. Oh hell no! Let me.
But I thought they did get some of the metrics now. Don't they get some? I mean, they get something. They get some kind of feedback or something. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Never been a digital.
But that's how I saw this.
Yeah.
I just saw it as like pulling pieces away from what you might get from digital
maybe.
versus what you might get
Better best.
Full connected license. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're right. I hear you.
Maybe
how much that moved the needle.
Maybe it is that because they did just promise 4 million memberships over to United Healthcare, and they were like, "Ooh, that's a lot of T-shirts."
That's a good point. That's a real. You know what?
That's a lot of T-shirts.
I honestly I think now that we've talked this out, I think that's the answer. I think they're like, if we're giving away this many free digital memberships, we can't be throwing all these T-shirts.
You
at
know
people.
what? Just to add to the point that makes sense. It ends August 31st, and the United Healthcare thing starts on September 2nd.
What? You see, there was some accountant. He was like, 4 million times 1999. Oh hell no! Cancel that. Cancel that. That's out.
All right. Well, we figured it out.
We figured it out. It took the three of us, but we figured it out. So okay, good to know. And I'm still insanely jealous that you saw Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, man. Tom doesn't get performer jealous very often, but
There's
that
not
is a
very
good
many.
one.
Like I know a guy that saw Nirvana. Like they played St. Louis once in a club. Like.
A million years ago.
So it's like, yeah.
And, and then add it, you buy the gear. I was buying stuff. I don't have any of that stuff anymore.
What?
Like I wasn't a collector. I was like wearing it. I'm like, it's all gone. It's horrible. And I also still apologize to my uncle for the past 30 plus years.
You need to.
You do.
You need to. That you absolutely need to.
Man.
I only have one comedy thing like that in terms of like I saw them. And now it's weird, but like when you saw him, he was working Raw. I saw Bill Cosby when he was doing what would become Himself tour. The Dad is great.
Yeah.
He gives us chocolate cake, like that whole thing. And it was and like now it's like I can't even brag about it because it's all weird.
Yeah, now it's weird.
Yeah, now it's weird.
Now it's just sad.
Now you can't even tell nobody about it.
Yeah.
No.
But anyway, on that note, on that weird note, let's wrap it.
That strange note. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So thanks for joining us. Until next time, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, my Run, Lift, and Live page or group. They can find me on Instagram, Run, Lift, and Live, or at runliftandlive.com.
Awesome.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
Joining us once again is Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couples Therapy with Dr. Jenn or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jenn. She also has a long-running radio show, The Dr. Jenn Show, and she's written 4 best-selling books, including The Relationship Fix, Dr. Jenn's 6-Step Guide to Improving Communication, Connection, and Intimacy, and most importantly, she loves her Peloton. Ladies and gentlemen, and all points in between, it's Dr. Jenn. Hello.
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 Good to have you back again. We have another question for you from the Clip Out community. This one is from Ashley Gallowina. She says her biggest problem is motivating or being happy after she completed a big goal. For example, running a marathon and then the aftermath. She trained all that time and then it's time to take it easy for a week or two, but in her mind, she's fighting a lack of motivation to continue to the next goal. That is a real thing. Did you feel that after your marathon when you did them?
I did a marathon in 1999. It was such a huge accomplishment for me. I really was able to celebrate it. I felt so good about having completed that. And now understand, I did it in 5 hours and 20 minutes. I'm no Usain Bolt by any means. I'm no Beck Gentry, but I was just so happy to complete it. My goal was to complete it without needing to crawl. I was like, I'm fine walking. I'm fine running. As long as I don't have to crawl, I'm pleased. So I think that this person really needs to examine what is holding her back from experiencing the joy of these monumental occasions. I mean, running a marathon is a really big deal. Like, not everybody does that in a lifetime. It's a huge accomplishment. And I think part of the question for her to ask herself is, where else am I holding back in my life from feeling joy? Is this isolated to that I'm not letting myself enjoy goal accomplishments, or are there other areas in my life where I'm not allowing myself to enjoy a precious moment with my family or someone I love, or a promotion at work, or, you know, a project I completed at the office, or a great moment with my child? So what's holding her back? And what is her resistance to recognizing her own greatness? Did she get a message as a child? Did she get a message growing up that, you know, sometimes there are families where people say, like, oh, don't get too big for your britches, or like, oh, you know, you think you're all that, which is so unhealthy. And I think it's important to look at, where did you get the idea that you should not be celebrated? Where did you get the idea that this is not a fantastic accomplishment? Where did you get the idea that you should be smaller than you are? And I mean that metaphorically, that to me, when you do something like this is worth celebrating. Like, this is worth internally celebrating, but also with the people who you love. And I remember after I ran the LA Marathon in '99, and it was, for me, it was a huge accomplishment. It's still something that is like a really cool thing in my life that I feel really proud of. And my mom gave me a bracelet with a note saying, like, congratulations, this is amazing, please don't do it again. But she really saw, like, how much it took out of me to train all year long, and she really celebrated it with me. And I think we like went out to dinner. And I think that also really letting the people in your life who are closest to you know how important something is, and to encourage them to celebrate it with you. And for me, that goal was so huge. It was so important to me. I let everyone close to me know, like, this is monumental. This is a bucket list thing. This is something I always dreamed of doing, and didn't know that if I could accomplish it. And like, we're going to celebrate when I'm done with this. Like, this is a big deal. I don't need to do it more than once, but like, this is something I really want to do. And I think that she also needs to surround herself with people who are ready to celebrate with her. And interestingly enough, and I talked about this in my book, The Relationship Fix, that there are studies that show that couples who celebrate milestone events and important moments like that have more successful relationships, tend to stay together longer, and tend to have a better quality of relationship.
Interesting.
That is.
To me, this kind of has an air maybe of like imposter syndrome. Like, I know I do it sometimes. I know you do it sometimes.
Yikes.
Crystal. Which is like, you create these goals you want to achieve, and then once you achieve them, you're like, well, if I did it, it couldn't be that hard, you know. And you instantly downgrade.
Great point. And I think that that's a great reveal from you. And I think it's something that other people will relate to. And I think instead of that kind of mindset of, well, if I did it, it must not be that hard, it needs to be, wow, I did it. I'm so cool. Like, I'm amazing. Like, I underestimated myself. Like, wow, like, I'm so amazing. Like, I mean, again, I look back on that marathon. I don't care that I did it in 5 hours and 20 minutes. Like, and Bex did it in like 5 minutes. but to me, like, I really looked at who I am, how I felt about running, and where I was in terms of running when I started, and what my goals were. I made appropriate goals, and I really let myself celebrate. And I think that we all need to celebrate ourselves more. And I think we need to give ourselves the room to do that. And like I mentioned before, she really should look at what is going on that she's resistant to celebrating herself, that she's so hard on herself. And where did she learn that? whose voice has she internalized that that's where she's going?
Oh.
I know. I was like, what part of the Midwest are you from?
I know. I'm thinking this is a Midwest thing.
It's very Midwestern. I mean, I'm sure it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's kind of in the water.
Yeah,
here,
like what you were saying about like too big for your britches. Like I was raised on that.
I can't tell you how many times I heard that as a kid.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. Every day.
I know, but just for the record, I know people on both coasts
Okay.
who have gotten that message as well. But I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of that. Until next time, where can people find you?
People can find me on all social media at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man, and in Style Magazine, online, Hump Day with Dr. Jenn. I have a weekly column where I talk about relationships and sex.
Awesome. Thank you.
Peloton in court. Who's suing Peloton now?
So Peloton is getting sued. We've got 2 Peloton lawsuits this week.
It's been a big week.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since somebody sued Peloton. They were about to lay off a couple lawyers, but thankfully somebody stepped up and kept them in business, and so the lawyers get to stick around for another couple weeks while they handle these. So they're being sued first off for improperly charging sales tax.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've had some people weigh in on this, attorneys weigh in on this that said that this really isn't that big of a deal because what they're talking about is not being able to charge sales tax on digital goods, but because Peloton does theirs a little bit differently, that Peloton should be okay. However, I have also had lawyers weigh in that say absolutely not. This qualifies as digital, and it's very black and white. It's very clear, especially in Massachusetts, and so they are going to lose. I have no idea
it's so
who
odd
is right
for lawyers to disagree.
I know, right?
Who'd have thunk it? So, like obviously not an attorney, certainly not an attorney in the 3 states where this is affected. But,
New York, Virginia, and Massachusetts, for anyone wondering.
But it seems to me just like applying logic, which you can't always do when it comes to the law. But if they passed that money onto the government, because they're saying that it's like they profited inappropriately or something like that.
Right, but if Peloton then passed it on.
But if it's a tax and it's just a pass through and they handed it over to the respective states, they really aren't profiting, right?
Yeah, and having worked at companies that do corporate tax, like I can verify that it is one of the most confounding and confusing things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Because if you're taxing for a service versus in this case a digital good versus an item, and where that item originated from can actually change whether or not you charge tax. So like if the item was made, I'm making up states, but if the item was made in Nevada and then shipped to Missouri, but was then used in Illinois, that's a completely different rate than being made in Nevada and staying in Missouri. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And so who wouldn't get confused? But people are like, well, they're a big enough company. They really should have this shit figured out. So
that's fair.
I mean, I don't know how it's going to go, but we will see. This is another class action lawsuit. So,
I thought it was odd at first. I was like, we didn't hear any rumblings of this because normally they're on Facebook, like trying to drum up people. But then I thought, well, they probably geo-targeted it. And since we're not in one of these 3 states, we didn't see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we'll see how that one turns out.
Yeah. And then moving along, TMZ is reporting that Peloton Brew?
Yeah, Cold Brew.
Peloton Cold Brew.
So a coffee company, basically.
Is suing Peloton, I guess because they registered a trademark. Peloton Cold Brew registered a trademark for the making cold brew coffees under the name Peloton.
And they did that back in 2017.
And Peloton never said anything. And then 3 years later, they were like, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah. So, I know that Peloton was on they've gone through phases where they've really cracked down on people. Back when we first started the podcast, for example, a lot of people had Peloton stuff out there for sale and all kinds of things. And Peloton didn't really do much about it. In fact, they were even like sometimes sharing their information with people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where it was getting a little out of control, and they really had to protect their brand, because if you don't protect your brand, then anybody can use it. I mean, we've talked about this before, because that's what happened to Spin. That's the place that owns Spin,
right?
You know,
and it's why they've gone after people just so harshly, and Disney runs into this where like they'll sue a nursery school for painting Mickey Mouse on the wall. There was one story where it was like a little kid died and they put Spider-Man on his tombstone, and they were like, yeah, like you can't do that. And then I think they finally were like, give us $1. Okay, we gave you the rights. But yeah, like, but if they don't do something like that, then you open it up and anybody can do it.
Right. And so I understand it, and I will, but this one is more complicated because the word Peloton doesn't belong to Peloton.
Right.
And it's been used for many, many years, long before Peloton came around. So the word Peloton, not this brewing company before Peloton, but it's been used in many ways. And so it will be interesting to see how this one turns out. They're probably going to settle, is my guess.
That is my guess. I will also say it doesn't look like they're being like cutesy, like they're like, it's Peloton, but it's not Peloton. Like the logo doesn't look like a Peloton logo in any real way, shape, or form.
It was late enough in the game that you got to wonder if they...
Sure.
But then again, early enough that like they really hadn't gained the like this huge momentum that they have now. So
right.
I don't know.
It's a tough call as to whether or not they're being too cute by half or not. I tend to think that they're not, but who knows? Ultimately it's a judge's call, right?
It is.
Peloton in the news.
Business Insider has an article. I gave into the hype and bought a Peloton bike after 30 days of using it. My life has genuinely improved. The first way it improved is it makes me write the world's longest headlines for articles.
Well, in her defense, probably Business Insider did that.
Yeah,
not her.
I do know the authors don't write the headlines
That's right.
for the articles, but that is the worst headline.
All
I think,
SEO, man.
I mean, Jesus Christ, a headline for your story shouldn't have a subplot.
Yeah, that's like a Dr. Phil circa 2019.
Yeah.
There was like a season of Dr. Phil where
everything was like 50 words for the description and the title. We're just like, what is going on? Did you hire Tolstoy to write your subject lines?
But anyway, so this was written by Michelle Gross, and she had been hearing rave reviews. She kept putting it off, didn't want to get it, and then she ended up getting it, and surprise, she loved it. You know what I'm surprised about?
What's that?
Is how many people love this article. Don't misunderstand. There's nothing wrong with the article. That is not to pick on her at all. It's just, duh. You know what I mean? Like, duh, of course you did.
And I feel like when I saw this article was in the lineup, I hadn't read it yet, and I'm just kind of like, and truth be told, I still haven't. But I was just like, I feel like we've seen this article like every 3 weeks. Somebody writes a version of like, I didn't think I was gonna love Peloton, but I love it. And
what cracks me up about it is that like, you know, I'll post things and then it's just fascinating to see the traffic that it gets.
Yeah.
And so like this one got like not quite as much as the instructors getting married, but like a solid half of that.
Wow.
And I was really shocked by that because we all know this story.
Right. You've lived it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it, but I love when people do come out and they're like, I was super against it for whatever reason, and then they come around they see the light, and it's like, you have now been inducted into the family and you are part of Peloton now. So that's great.
And then the Fitnessista, I know how to say it now because she was a guest on the show.
I thought it was Fitnessista.
God damn it, then I don't know how to say it.
Because we said Fitnessista, and she was like, no, it's Fitnessista. We were like, that makes more sense.
Oh, okay. Well, then I think we all know how well I listen. But her blog had an article about just 10 of her favorite gym-free cardio options. And of course, Peloton is right there at number 1 on the list.
Yeah, which is great because she's now had it so many years and she still loves it just as much as she did back at the beginning. So that's nice to see. And if you guys did not know that, we interviewed her a while back. I don't remember what episode she is, but I do know that it was a joy. And her blogs always have lots of great information, not only about Peloton, but all kinds of workouts. She gives workouts that she does. She gives nutrition help and like recipes, all kinds of things. This is a great blog.
Mirage News, which is, I'm assuming, out of Australia, writes about home fitness pioneer Peloton takes Australians for a high-tech spin.
Yeah, and so the general manager, Karen Lawson, was interviewed for this article, and she talked about, why she sees Australia as a major opportunity. And so there's 3 reasons. Australians have embraced the trend for home and boutique fitness. Australians are early adopters of new technology, and Australia is a regional gateway to the Asia Pacific. I agree with all of that. Now, there's an interview that will be airing in a few weeks where we actually talk to somebody who lives in Australia, and it will be interesting to kind of go back to this article at that time and compare it, because he had some different thoughts about how Australia will or will not embrace Peloton. So very interesting to me. Do you have any thoughts on which country they're going to go to next, Tom?
Me? I feel like it would be something Spanish speaking. So I don't know if that would be Spain or Mexico.
Yeah, I don't know because they can do. They're already starting to do Spanish speaking classes out of the New York studio. So I'm curious if they will move into a Spanish speaking country or continue to just broaden the horizons from there, or both.
Or
doesn't have to be either word.
Or maybe they'll hit somewhere in Asia.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, especially since so much of the manufacturing is over there. Why, I guess it would cut down on shipping.
Yeah,
it's right
that's
there.
Very true.
You just open up a dock and people could swing by and pick it up. That's how it works, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No.
The clip out.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube is Angelo from MetPro, here to answer all of your fitness and nutrition questions. Hello, how's it going?
Hey guys, great to be back.
Great to have you. I think we have another tough question for you. I feel like a depends is coming. That before I even ask,
every one of your questions are tough, Crystal. Every one of them.
We have a very inquisitive group. You know, they're very into what they're doing. Okay, so this one comes from Amy Owens, and she says, calories. Is it really just calories in versus calories out, or do I need to be doing keto/vegan/paleo instead? I'm so confused.
It's not depends. The answer isn't depends this time, Crystal.
I really thought you were going to say it is.
It's not depends. No. So the answer, Amy, is no.
No.
It's not calories in, calories out. The answer is no. That's it. Great podcast, you guys.
All right,
Okay, where do people find you till next time?
Okay, so you probably want a little more time.
A little bit, yeah.
I guess.
Okay, so no, it is not calories in and calories out. However, the problem is we know that it's not just a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. That is proven. Anyone who says otherwise is probably going to try and sell you something. So there's more to it than that. The problem is we swing too far in the other direction, and then you have the group that says, yeah, calories don't matter, in fact, at all. Like, no, that's not true. Calories very much matter. Calories matter a lot, and it will largely influence your metabolic outcome and what happens with your body. So it's one of the factors that you want to balance. So when it comes to weight loss, I'm just going to list all things that will trigger weight loss.
Okay.
There is calorie restriction or calorie adjustments. There's carbohydrate restriction or carbohydrate adjustments. And those two tend to be the two big grandfather techniques that are going to have the greatest influence.
Okay.
Then past that are the things that are very relevant, very important, by themselves aren't going to swing the dial dramatically, but when combined with other strategies will add up. And that is going to be your meal timing, meal frequency, and then the glycemic load of the foods that you choose will impact. Beyond that, There's drugs impact, but we don't want to use that as a method because what do drugs have? Drugs have side effects.
Yeah.
We don't need that in our life when not medically necessary. So what we're looking at is where are the levers? So when I look at somebody's meal plan, their routine, the very first thing I do is I want to get a nutritional history, kind of their fitness culture. What are you currently eating? And what I'm looking for, and these are kind of, behind the curtain secrets, what I'm looking for is where do I have the most leverage? Because people wonder, sometimes I cut calories for an individual, and other times I don't cut any calories. I even add, but I do adjust their carbohydrates or other macronutrients. Well, it's not I'm always going to do A or I'm always going to do B. It's I'm going to look, where do you have the most leverage? So Amy, add up your calories and add up your carbohydrates and see where you're at. If you find that you have excess calories that can easily be cut, I'd probably start there. If you find that, when I add this up, I'm really in an appropriate range for my size and activity, I'm not too high on the calories, but most of my calories are coming from carbohydrates, you're probably going to see more influence out of manipulating your carbohydrates versus cutting 50 or 100 calories out of your total for the day. Where do we have the most leverage? And most people, it's a combination of both. But keep in mind, what you take out, you have to eventually put back, or at least put some of it back, because no matter what you do, your body's going to get used to that. So if you do this little experiment and evaluate your over, say, a week's time, your average calorie intake, your average carbohydrate intake, determine which of the two you have most leverage with, then also set yourself a very moderate goal that you can hit as far as weight loss. And then I want you to take a period of time where you refresh your metabolic rate. You let your metabolism recover, where you say for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm not going to try and lose weight. I'm going to eat a little bit more, either carbs or calories or both. I'm going to exercise a little bit more, and I'm going to try and get stronger, or I'm going to try and run faster, or I'm going to try and pedal harder, or whatever your performance of choice is. That's critical. Now, I'll tell you, I worked with contestants that were on the Biggest Loser and these big, Hollywood shows. A lot, not just that one. Lots of different, survivalist shows and things like that. And these would be people that, and don't get me wrong, like I know some of the trainers that were on these shows, and they're good guys and gals that are really trying to help these people. But the way weight loss should happen is in a periodized cyclical approach where we're going to lose 20, 25 pounds, depending on how much weight you have to lose, pause, let your metabolic rate recover for a few weeks, and then go for another 15 or 20, pause, recover, and then push ahead. That makes for very boring TV.
Right. Nobody wants to see it slowly.
Yeah.
They want to see a dramatic
They like the
change.
transformation pictures.
Yeah.
They want to see. So some of these people, they come out the other side and they're like, well, I'm already exercising, 4 hours a day, and I'm only eating this, square of cheese. I'm exaggerating, of course, but and they wonder, my body's been, and we've been doing this for months on end, and they wonder why their body is so sensitive. They have a single biscuit or a glass of wine, and all of a sudden they gain 3 pounds. Your metabolism is acclimated to that. You have to give it some breathing room. And if you do that gradually, incrementally, bring your metabolic rate back up, then that will equip you to then push for some more weight loss. And so here's an interesting fact. If somebody comes to me and says, Angelo, I want to weigh 150, it doesn't matter, any weight. I want to weigh 200 pounds, whatever your goal weight is. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to lose, say, 50 pounds down to 200 pounds, whatever it is. I'm going to diet you down to 196. Because at 200, you're not eating enough. I have to go past that so I can have you gain back 2, 3, 4 pounds in muscle over a few weeks, while getting your body regulated and used to more calories, more carbohydrates. Now, when you gain weight back up to 200, that's real, you can sustain that. Otherwise, it's just like everyone else that's, holding their breath. I went on this diet and I lost 10 pounds. and you know it's not staying off because you're not hardly eating anything. You're just drinking these shakes. You're not doing. You just know you're like, and I have that dinner with my high school reunion in 2 days, and I can just make it. I can make it. But that's it. It's over. No, we want to recondition your metabolism. So that's the long haul picture and goal. And I have no idea what question I'm answering.
Well, there had to have been an answer in there somewhere.
That's it. I don't know what I said, but I said something.
Well, I will say this: when we went on vacation, we were gone for 10 days, and I won't say we ate whatever we wanted, but we ate pretty aggressively, And I
would concur.
What's that?
I would concur.
Yeah,
I have the pictures, the blackmail.
But I will say, when I got back, I went back to doing what I've been doing nutrition wise. I lost the weight in almost the exact same amount of time that it took me to put on the weight, and I've never done that before in my life. I never even knew that was possible. I was like, well, of course it'll take you longer. I mean, I think I was gone for 10 days. I think it took me like 13 to get back to where I was the day I left. I was stunned.
Yeah,
there needs to be a stronger word than stunned or flabbergasted. I was stundergasted. So
fantastic.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, those were my results. Those were my real world results, and I can send you pictures of the things I ate.
Yes, we can. So here's a little, just for curiosity's sake, here's a little fascinating point. Our coaches, we teach them to evaluate right out of the gate when somebody, they say, hey, I want to lose weight. I'm not at the body comp or weight I want to be at. The first thing we have to determine is it because their metabolism is running slow, or is it because they're over-consuming? The approach is totally different. If it's over-consuming, then it's all about what type of strategy is sustainable, what can we execute on, and what can we do consistently, and what's going to be the least painful. If it's your metabolism, here's the problem. Your metabolism has been given the orders for all these years, and you've just been saying, okay, I'm going to listen to it and eat less and less and less because it's getting cranky. You want to control it and say, no, metabolism, this is what you're going to do.
Me.
You're going to listen to me. That's it. And it's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable over time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, where can people find you?
metpro.co/TCO.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Instructors in the news.
So I made a special sweeper for us for when Peloton gets sued. I guess I should have made one for when people get engaged.
Who knew? Who knew we'd have 3 engagements in 2 weeks?
I know. And between that and the weddings, it's just...
And don't forget, Selena is engaged too, because she got engaged like a month ago.
She's
maybe 2 months ago. She
Yeah.
started this whole thing.
Yes.
So there's a lot of engagements that are happening.
Well, we all know how well Peloton does engagement.
That's true. I feel like John Foley just needs to be able to perform ceremonies. Like he
becomes an officiant.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And he should officiate all Peloton instructor weddings from now on.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, we never actually said who got engaged.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody knows by now because it happened
Probably.
last weekend. But it was Christine D'Ercole.
Yeah.
So, man, what an interesting story that this is. I'm not gonna get super into it, but let me just say that a lot has happened in the Peloton universe between when Peloton was known by only a few to today. And the things you heard back then versus the things you hear now.
It wasn't quite as locked down.
It was not.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to leave it at that. Congrats to Christine.
Absolutely. And then Cody Rigsby is celebrating 7 years at Peloton.
7 years this week. And all of the instructors sent him love. And of course, and if you're watching, there's a picture of Cody holding Jess King. And it was back during the very first year he worked there. He had really long hair then. And he had that haircut where like everything's cut underneath and then the long swoop.
Okay.
And so you can't see it because he has a something on his head, but there's other images where he has like the ponytail with the tiny little swoop coming out. It's funny. 7 years has changed a lot.
So long ago, people could be next to each other.
I know.
Yeah.
And they look like babies there, don't they?
I don't.
Right.
I just feel like I see him on a daily basis.
Yeah,
So.
I guess. That's fair. I feel like you've seen enough pictures of all the instructors. You should just know.
I should know. Okay. Yes, they look like babies. Is that better?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then congratulations to Ross Rayburn, who got a new house and a bike plus to match.
Yeah, and I know I wrote new house, but I have to say it might have been a new apartment, given that they live. I can't remember now.
Sure.
Like I think it said house.
A new dwelling.
Yes, he got a new dwelling, but I might have been distracted by the bike plus. I was super excited. But he said which is more exciting, and I will be interested to see which he thinks is more exciting once he gets all moved in and settled and gets to ride his bike. That'll be great.
So Tunde has an event coming up on Facebook in her Facebook room. I've not heard of a Facebook room yet. Is this? I guess this is new.
I think it just means Facebook Live. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe she did mean something other than that.
Because she capitalized the R like it's an official thing.
That's true. I kind of glossed right over that. So in my head, that was a Facebook Live.
Do you think that's their answer to Clubhouse? Because Twitter's got one.
It could be.
So
I have not been paying attention to that. So that is very possible that I have missed out on that. But at any rate,
yeah.
and so she posted it yesterday. So it happened last night. So it happened Tuesday night. What are we on? What day is it?
Well, we're recording on Wednesday.
I don't know what day it is, though.
Oh, today is the 18th.
18th. So it happened on Tuesday, the 17th. So if you want to go back and look to see where it was, and listen to it. At any rate.
And it was with New York Times bestselling author, host, Emmy Award-winning Fox Sports analyst, and creator of Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, Emmanuel Acko. I hope I'm saying that right.
I hope we are too.
Yeah. So if you want to check that out, you can find that over on Facebook.
Yeah, very cool. I love seeing Peloton have these opportunities to be able to share, because she pointed out that she's friends with him too. So I like that they're able to use their personal connections to further the conversations that are important to them on the Peloton platform.
Absolutely. People magazine finally noticed that Ally Love got married.
So, yeah, I mean, about that, I feel like this was like a deal already made, and they because they knew that she was going to post all of her own stuff, they agreed on a date that they would post this.
That they'd sit on it for a minute.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
But they have a nice write up in People. That's always exciting.
They do. It goes into great detail about all 5 days. So if for some reason you manage to miss one of these posts and one of her outfits, you now have a chance to go see all of it in People magazine. You cannot miss. If you did miss it, this will give you the opportunity to be all caught up.
Yes, it's all in one place where you can just binge.
Yep. All the outfits, one click. I gotta say, it did amuse me because I told you last week that several people brought up the fact that this was just too big. Too big, too much. Lots of complaints about it. But I'm not going to say anything other than I did think it was interesting that Paris Hilton is getting married. And she is having a 3-day event with 10 outfit changes. So just to recap, Ally Love 5 days, Paris Hilton 3. You decide.
Bustle.com talked to Kendall Toole.
Yeah, and they talked to her about, obviously, we've talked about before that Kendall has brought forward her
mental health journey.
Yeah, and her passion for what she calls mental fitness. Mm-hmm. And so this article is about that, but also how she goes about highlighting it on Peloton. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to take any of her rides, because they have these mood rides. These mood classes now, and she's got some very interesting ones. So if you haven't had a chance to try it, I highly recommend you do. The playlists are perfect for the moods that are indicated.
And the kit, which I'm not familiar with, but I guess it's Canadian. It's the kit.ca.
Okay.
Has an article about Jess Sims.
Yeah, and I love the tagline, why the Peloton sensation left everything to pursue her dream. And this is a great article that goes through her motivation for why she left teaching, and all that she had to kind of leave behind. She's been featured a lot in articles lately. I find it so interesting when this happens because, Cody, that was happening to for a while, Robin before that. And so it's Jess's turn.
I also find it interesting that this is Canadian. So we used to talk about how, or we've talked in the past about how there were so many articles about Peloton now that we've actually kind of pared back on drilling down on all of them. And because it's such a common occurrence, and I almost feel like this is an indication that they're really starting to gain more traction in Canada when you're seeing the Canadian press focus on instructors in a way that they haven't been previously.
I definitely agree with that.
Past guest update.
So as the fancy dancy sweeper told you, we have a past guest update.
We do. Kristen Flechner was on the show way back on episode 101.
Wow.
That's how long it's been. And Kristen is an amazing person. She is an attorney. She is a paracyclist. And we talked to her about both of those things. And let's not forget that she has her own disability. She is legally blind, and she does so much to advocate for people that have disabilities. And she's helped companies all over the world, including Peloton, by consulting with them and helping them make their products more accessible. Well, Kristen has been struggling, and we just wanted to send our love out to her. She recently had to have a kidney transplant. For those of you who might be following her story, just wanted to let you know that transplant did go well, and she is recovering, and we send all of our love and support to her.
Absolutely.
Peloton artist collaborations.
So we have a new artist series of sorts. It's not a musical artist, but they have Disney classes on the way.
Yeah, and it's an interesting triple collaboration because Disney and Spotify and Peloton all teamed up on this one. So they're using, the instructors from Peloton are using songs from the playlist on Spotify that Disney helped them curate. So it's a triple collaboration.
Fascinating. It's also fascinating coming on the heels of Echelon's Jungle Cruise.
It is, right? So that it is interesting because they had a movie, but then Peloton does this big thing.
Right.
So
they get a movie and Peloton gets all of Disney.
Yeah. So are you going to take any of these classes, Tom? Because I know you love the Disney music.
Well, there's a Spotify playlist. That's probably plenty for me.
I really thought.
Really?
I thought maybe like a yoga.
Really?
Like maybe a yoga.
Nah.
No.
I'm good.
Okay, fine. Well, I will take them.
Okay.
All right.
Let me know how they go.
I will.
Peloton Birthdays.
And finally, upcoming Peloton-related birthdays. On August 20th, you have Jill Foley. But more importantly, you have Clip Out Crystal. Her birthday is on Friday, August 20th. So
well, I am definitely not more important than Jill Foley.
I disagree.
Aww.
So if you swing by the Clip Out group, wish her a happy birthday.
Thank you.
As if you hear this on the day it comes out. And it also, on August 24th, is the birthday of Aditi Shaw.
Happy birthday to Jill and Aditi.
And Crystal.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
So joining us today via the magic of Zoom Tomb is Allie Feller from the Allie on the Run podcast. She has a very, very successful podcast where she talks to people who love to run, but they also have other fascinating aspects that make them interesting and inspiring. Hello, Allie.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the other end of the conversation today. I didn't do any prep for this. I just got to show up. So
isn't it great? Every once in a while when we get asked to do something, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I can just sit down and
all I have to do is show up.
all I got to do is answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Though I will say I am a little bit more comfortable being on the side that you are on. I like being the one in control of the conversation.
Okay.
So I will do my best not to turn it around and just fire questions back at the two of you, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
We've
Noted.
had people when we did Dr. Jenn.
Yeah.
interviewed her the first time,
Yeah.
it was like it ended up being her interviewing us the whole time.
Yeah, she got real deep on Tom's anti-exercise trip that he's on. So she
I
took
won't
the
hold back.
psychology thing. Oh no, you don't
Yeah.
have to hold back.
No.
It's fun when people don't hold back.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
But I am curious because you've been a runner for a long time. So how did Peloton show up in your life and you decided, oh, I need to get that bike?
So fun fact, I don't have the bike. I only have the tread.
You only have the
Wow.
tread. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so I only have the tread. I have the tread plus, currently unplugged, away from children, away from pets. Like, we're good. We're safe.
Don't at me. What she's saying.
You should see, I can't post anything these days. Like, if I post an Instagram story where the treadmill's in the background, people are like, did you hear? Like, do you know?
Like, no, really? What?
You don't say. Yeah, so we're good. But yeah, I mean, like many, it was a pandemic purchase. I waited way longer than I should have. Also, like many, I had friends who the minute the word pandemic started going around, they were like, I'm getting a Peloton. And I was like, you're crazy. You're not going to need that. And then of course comes September, and the short version is that we were living in New Jersey. The pandemic brought us up to New Hampshire to stay with my parents for 2 weeks, which turned into 15 months. And, didn't have access to a gym. And I'm a runner and I love running outside, but running outside in New Hampshire is not always a good idea. And so I was like, I'm going to not only move my entire family in with my parents, I'm going to bring a giant treadmill into their basement.
Wow.
So what happens when you go back home? Now you
Yeah.
got this big, huge behemoth.
Our timing is great. We moved it this weekend. So we are now in our own house. We stayed in New Hampshire, but we're in our own house, and we moved the treadmill this weekend. And it was an adventure. I mean, not for me because I didn't touch a thing, but we
sound like me.
Yeah. Like, I'm as motivated and as lazy as possible. And I'm just not helpful. But you know what I did? I documented it on Instagram stories. And that was
well
There
then
you go.
that's
Exactly.
you really did your job.
I
mean, you
lifted
are
a
the
finger.
documenter.
I
Yeah.
lifted a thumb. But yeah, so Peloton, I reached out and they will help you relocate your treadmill sometimes. And then with the recall, they were like, we'll move it to a safer location for free. And I was like, hell yeah, because I'm moving and I can spin this and be like, will you? And that didn't work. And
It didn't?
It did not work. And they do not service our area for moves. And so whatever. So the short version is, shout out to my husband, my dad's friend, Jeff, and my lifelong friend, Tom, who came in and my dad and my husband knew that it was a big machine. Jeff and Tom are like, you really need 4 guys. It's a treadmill. How heavy can it be? And I'm like, it's the heaviest thing I've ever been near. It's 450 pounds. And they were like, there's no way. There's no way. And I'm like, okay. Hence me documenting it and watching these 4 dudes, because they had to move it up a flight of stairs into a truck. They did great. I love them. I offered to pay them. They said no, thank you. I was thrilled with that. So they are not available for hire. They told me that the next time we move, the treadmill stays in the house. So I will be buying a new one someday. But for now,
you do start to weigh those options though, right? You're like, okay, I've been here X amount of time. I've gotten my money's worth out of this. I don't want to move it. I'll buy a new one.
Right. It's just not worth it at some point. I mean, it is so massive. So was it on the ground? Is it on the ground floor of your new home?
Ish.
It's either the ground or it's not the ground.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how to answer that. It's not on what it's in the basement, but we could drive the truck to the basement entrance. So the basement has an outdoor entrance that does not have stairs.
Okay.
Yes, so they were able to drive it. Moving it in was very easy. It looked easy. From where I stood, which was far away. They did great.
Which was on Instagram. You were standing on Instagram.
Yes, I should have made a highlight, but really it was a exciting Sunday here in New Hampshire.
I bet it was. And I'm super curious, did they have to take it completely apart? Or
yes, I did help with that part. My husband and I did that on our own. He watched the tutorial video. He, it was a whole thing again with the tools. But I stood there while he did it and was like, let me know if you need me to keep anything steady. And he was like, I need you to not touch a thing.
You're like, that's my jam.
Dude, the fact we moved to Peloton treadmill and we are still married. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have
win.
been really stressful for me to watch. Like, I would have been worried.
I was thinking that the whole time.
I don't think I could have documented it because I think I would be stressed out the entire time. I'd be like, are you sure that goes there? What if there's a missing piece?
Does the new iPhone have camera stabilization? Because you'd be shaking the whole time like a frightened chihuahua.
I will say my husband is the only person on the planet that I would trust to do that because he's very good at this stuff, very capable. Meanwhile, my dad is trying to chime in, like, bless his heart. But my dad is like, what if we take this rickety ladder from when I was a teenager, we lay it on the stairs, we slide the treadmill up with a blanket. I'm sitting there and I'm just like looking at my husband like, do not let this happen.
Oh my God.
My dad's busting
this is
out
a
like
Laurel and Hardy short. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. And I'm like, Dad, you know how much I paid for this machine. So just putting that out there. So anyway, it worked great. I have the treadmill, pandemic purchase, thrilled.
Okay. Well, and you've tried it out. It works in your new home. Everything's good.
I stood on it, but I've not yet run on it because the weather is finally beautiful in New Hampshire.
Oh, so now you can run outside.
It just rained for like a month straight. I was driving to my parents' house to use it during the day. Now it's here and the weather is great. But, winter will be here in like 5 minutes. So I'm very happy about this.
Thrones.
It is. Yeah. I mean,
winter is coming. Always. Always in New Hampshire. Yes.
Phew. Okay. So now, how long have you been running? I know it's a long time, but I don't know when you started.
Yeah, I started running in 2008 or 9. I tend to not remember. It's a blurry time, mostly because I had just moved to New York City out of college. And so it was a lot of like dollar slices of pizza and boxed wine. A lot of boxed wine in that time. And I was a dancer growing up. Running was punishment, hated it. Like refused to run the mile in gym class, was like, I'm not interested. I hid under the bleachers, popped out for the last lap. So that was not a thing that I did. And then I moved to New York City, couldn't afford to join a gym, didn't want to continue dancing. Like I wasn't going to be a professional dancer. So I needed something to do. And my roommate, who I found on Craigslist, had all these medals hanging on her wall. And I moved in and I was like, oh my God, I love your necklaces. They're so shiny. Like, what are those? Because at the time, like statement necklaces were in, like the J. Crew bubble necklace was all the rage. And I'm like, cool necklaces.
Was your roommate Flavor Flav? What is happening?
Similar. No, like a sweet girl from Syracuse. So no, I was like, she has like medals or something. And I jokingly was like, I like your necklaces. And she was like, oh, those are my half marathon medals. And I had never heard the term half marathon. I had heard of marathons, but even that, I didn't really know that everyday people ran them. I was just like, oh yeah, it's a sport that professional people do.
Right.
And then that was really how it started. She was like, you should try running. And so I wore my jazz sneakers because I was a dancer. So lacing up my little Capizios. How I didn't like roll an ankle and just roll right into the East River, I do not know. But it helped that my first run was only like 30 seconds because I didn't know. And so I like go out our apartment and I'm like, I'm going to go for a run along the East River. And I just like sprinted. And
like, you were exhausted.
And I was done. I made it like 2 lampposts and I was like, whew, great run today. Crushed it. Like couldn't have been more than 45 seconds. And that was my run. But
your playlist consisted of 30% of a Ramones song.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it took me longer to power up my like old school iPod that had, the dial and went like, like that noise, didn't even get to that, but I was motivated by it. Like those 2 lampposts, the next day I was like, what if I could make it to that lamppost and then that one? And then once I got a little further south, I learned there was a dog park that was exactly a mile from our apartment.
Cool.
So, and I was like, crazy about dogs. Didn't have one. I was just the creep that went to the dog park without a dog.
You went to go visit.
I mean,
that's
it's
all
better.
The petting with none of. That's all the petting with none of the poop. Why would you?
And
that's
it's
a
socially
win-win.
acceptable. Like people like when you give their dogs attention. You can't go to a playground without a kid. That's weird. But you can go to a dog park without a dog.
You'll end up on a list.
Yeah. We don't want that.
I don't want to be on that list. No. So that was my motivation to the dog park. Then it was to the dog park and back, signed up for a 4-mile race, half marathon, marathons, and been doing it ever since. I still feel like a new runner, I think, because I wasn't one growing up. But yeah, I've been doing this for more than a decade now and have somehow made a career out of talking about this thing that I do. So that's a pretty cool turn of events there.
It is. And on that note, like, what inspired you to start the podcast? Like, why were you like, I need to talk about the running that I do?
Because I always need to talk about something. I have a very hard time staying quiet. So I was a journalist. I majored in journalism in college. I had a dream of being the editor-in-chief of Dance Spirit magazine, because dancer. And that's what I went on to do. So I interned at Dance Spirit in college. I worked my way up. I became editor-in-chief. And of course, just as I get this dream job, I'm like starting to lose interest in dance. I wasn't dancing myself. I started to feel a bit removed from it, even though I spent all my hours doing it, but I had started running. And that to me was so exciting. That was in 2010, 2011, when everyone had a running blog. And it was like, everyone had one. So I started Allie on the Run, which was a blog. And I would write my posts about my morning run. I could write 2,000 words about a 4-mile easy run. Like it was so dramatic. I always had a story to share. And I would write them on the notes app on my commute. So on the subway, I would sit down and I'm like furiously typing, email it to myself, get to the office super early before anyone was there so I could upload it and post it to my blog. And then I would work all day. And like, I was just so excited to talk about running. And then once I sort of realized I wanted to make a career change, which was for a few reasons, but I went freelance and I started working for myself, and I was a freelance writer. So I wrote for Self, Shape, Women's Health, Women's Running, Runner's World, kind of all the health and fitness publications you see on the newsstands. And then I started listening to running podcasts when we moved to New Jersey. So that was hard for me. That we got a dog, which was great. Finally, I had a place at the dog park. But we wanted to give her a better life, you know? We wanted her to have more grass. And so we moved across the river to New Jersey, which meant I didn't have Central Park and I didn't have all my running buddies. And so I was doing all my runs by myself. And I was still am a very social person. So I discovered podcasts and I started listening to them. And I was like, I could do this. This seems like it's just talking. I love talking. I never shut up
all the time.
My husband would love if I talked to someone else for a change.
This sounds like a similar origin story. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, you just want to talk about your obsession. And it started as a hobby while I was freelance writing. And then it turned into, it went from this to shifting to now. The podcast is my full-time job and I haven't written an article in over a year. So that's not true. I wrote like 2 pieces last year, but very much the podcast is my job now. I put out anywhere between 2 and 5 episodes a week.
Wow.
Everyone from everyday runners to professional runners to the people competing at the Olympics right now. And it's fun and I love it. And I cannot believe that this is my life and that I get to now talk about talking to people.
That is amazing and inspiring. I gotta say, I'm like, whew, see, Tom,
thanks
it can
a lot.
happen.
She's gonna quit her job now. What the hell?
She totally should.
Well, thanks for joining us.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to move your treadmill for you? Whatever you need.
Yes, to a much smaller house.
Oh my God, that's great.
But for real, that's an amazing journey that you can make that your full-time job. That's not an easy achievement.
It is not. That is super inspiring and super awesome. Wow. And you've gotten to actually interview some of the Peloton instructors. How I know you've interviewed lots of amazing people, but it's Peloton and I'm obsessed with them.
Let's go there. Let's do that. Let's talk about why I'm here, which is that I interview a lot of the Peloton instructors. And I can't confirm it yet, but I do have 2 more that will be coming up that I'm excited about. So
exciting.
So Jess Sims was the first Peloton instructor that I had on the show. That's still one of my favorite episodes. One of the most downloaded of all time, just because it's Jess Sims. Like,
right.
She's the
best.
Greatest.
She is.
Her story, speak of inspiring stories. Gosh, hers is amazing, being a teacher. And I love her so much. And That was actually before I had the treadmill. I was doing the outdoor runs and I was doing like her, the 5-minute classes with my daughter, just because I was like, these pandemic days are long. How can we kill 5 minutes? Sims, 3 in a row. And I just, Jess is someone who I used to see when I lived in New York City. She's of course still there, but I would see her at classes all the time. We used to take all the same SoulCycle classes. And she just had this like aura about her. And she wasn't teaching, she was taking the classes, but she was always front row and she just seemed cool. And then I learned who she was. And then she started teaching at Fitting Room and I would take the classes there. And so she was just someone that I thought, she's cool, and her outdoor runs I was loving. And so I was like, let's get her on the show. Let's see about this. And it blew up. Like, people loved the Peloton episode. Then I had Tune Day on. That one, oh my gosh. So I finished recording with Tune Day. We talked for like 90 minutes. I had to lie down on the ground. And keep in mind, Tune Day doesn't teach on the treadmill. Like, I follow her on Instagram. I watched when they did the Beyonce class.
You didn't take the class.
No, I don't have a bike. No, but it was so hyped that I was like, yes. I want to see what this is about. So if you look at my stats, it's like 1 ride. Last place.
Hey, you're doing better than me.
Yeah, no kidding. But I was just so inspired. And, Tune Day's another one. She just has such an amazing story. And I had to lie down after we finished and just like bask in all that is Tune Day. And so that one was great. Maddie Majacomo has been on. Olivia Amato has been on. Matt Wilpers was just on a few weeks ago. I've never gotten so many DMs from people being disappointed to learn that he is not single. I didn't realize just how many people are like deeply in love with Matt Wilpers. So yeah, it's been so fun having them on the show. I love hearing the stories of how they got the job at Peloton. I love hearing about, it's funny when Jess was on. So the first one, we talked so much about getting the job and learning to be an instructor and learning to be live and learning the cues and learning to do all the shout outs. And I feel like recently, I don't want to say strayed because it's not accidental, but like when Matt Wilpers was on, we didn't talk about that at all because it's just there. I feel like you can only ask them so many times, like, is it hard to run and teach at the same time? They're like, yeah, it is. And so I run something. Oh, Bex Gentry too. How did I miss that? Yeah. Bex was on. And we talked all about her running the Olympic marathon trials for Great Britain. And that was awesome. People. Yeah. She's my crush. And Olivia.
She's amazing. She's like so fast. It's just like, I can't even like comprehend that she is able to run that fast for that long. And she makes it so easy. I mean, I don't know. You're a good runner. You're a fast runner. So it's probably
no. Do not Gentry to me. Let's not. When she's like, well, that doesn't count as my run because I only do like 8 miles and it's only at like an 8-minute pace. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, that is relatable to me. Totally.
I know when she's like doing a warm-up run and she's like, anything 7 and below. I'm like, that's cute, Bex.
I'm like, I'm not even on my treadmill. I'm just watching.
This is my stretch time. Well, I understood that before you got the tread that you were debating getting the tread because you have Crohn's disease. So it kind of like came into play of your decision. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. That was a big part of it. So I've had Crohn's my whole life. It's a digestive disease. The short way to explain that is I am in the bathroom urgently and often. And that makes running really challenging. Even when I'm not having a flare up, I'm still using the bathroom a ton when I'm running. Today, I think this morning I ran 7 miles and I'm like, I only had to stop and go to the bathroom twice. Wow. That's like really good for me. Normally it's 3 or 4 times on a 7-mile run, which is my normal now, but it's annoying. Like it takes more time. It's inconvenient. There's not always a bathroom where you need one. I joke, I'm going to get kicked out of this town for how often I have to use the woods as my bathroom. And that I'm telling so many people that now publicly is not helping my case. So it's fine. There's only like 2 cops in this town. I don't know if they listen to this, but hopefully not. So Officer Pecora, if you're listening, please let me stay. But it's hard. And especially in the winter, even if it's a beautiful winter day, there's snow on the ground. I can't just run into the woods. There's snow up to my neck. Like all these things that most people probably don't think about when it comes to running are on my mind constantly. And so for me, the ease of being able to have a treadmill in my home, which the new one in our house is right next to a bathroom. Very excited. At my parents, I had to go up the stairs. Not always convenient.
No.
Like, how dare they not build me a bathroom in their basement after I have so graciously lived with them rent-free for 15 months? Like,
and move the tread in. Like, let's not forget that.
Yeah, honestly. God. So now it's right next to a bathroom, which is very exciting for me. But even that, I mean, I can rarely get through a 20-minute class without having to jump off the treadmill. I know there's such heated debate over the pause button. I'm super not interested in the debate. But as someone with Crohn's disease, it sucks that when I have to jump off, I lose 5 minutes of the class. I just want to get back on. I'm like, you can kick me off the leaderboard. I don't care about that. I just want to not miss part of the class. And I get it. And I understand. And I know it's coming and blah, blah, blah. But even with the treadmill, for me, it's a great way to still be able to do the thing that I love in the comfort of my own home, where if all of a sudden my stomach is like, oh, time for a break, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not happening publicly. It's not me in the middle of this little town, like panicking next to the fountain as cars are driving around. So yeah, that was a big part. It was, hey, winter's coming. Running outside is already going to be hard. Running outside with Crohn's disease when there's snow and ice and all of my little like safety trees that I knew on my route that I could like run behind if I needed, I can't get to them anymore. And so, yeah, that was a big factor for me. And it's really come in handy because fun fact about Crohn's disease, it gets worse when you're stressed. You know what's stressful? A pandemic. Living with your parents, all those things, no childcare for your 2-year-old. So certainly I've been extra stressed for the past 1.5 years. And so my stomach has been a mess. And so, yeah, gonna get kicked out of town, have the treadmill for when they say, ma'am, you personally are on a stay-at-home order. You are not welcome here. And I'm like, well, at least I have a treadmill. So I'm just prepared for that.
That's a good plan. That's a very solid plan. Yeah. I don't even know how you do that because in the outside, you know, even if you're behind a tree, it's not protected from all directions. There's not, you know, there's not a way to like, if the trail, you know, meanders back the other way, people can still see you. So it's very hard.
They have. Ask my landscaper how we met.
Oh no.
It's fine. It's fine. He does a really great job with our lawn. But no, I mean, I can joke about it because I've been doing this forever and because I'm not in the moment, right? But like every single morning when I go for a run, I know this is going to happen. I know every road in this town by now. I know where to avoid because there will be too many cars. I run at 5 a.m. Yeah, because it's like the time that's convenient. There's also a lot less people out. I'm far less likely to have one of those scenarios, but it has happened and it makes an already embarrassing situation so much worse. And I always want to be like, you think this is bad for you? Like all this is to you is a story you're going to tell your family at dinner time. This is humiliating for me. Like I hate who I am right now. So no, I mean, it's, I can laugh about it when I'm, you know, talking about it hours later, but like I've had really awful moments. I'm sure you have people listening who have Crohn's or colitis or IBD or IBS or just runners who've like had that happen, right? Every runner has a poop story and that's me 4 times a day. Yeah. Do you want to tell it? Have you told it on the show? That was a great time.
Well, she was kind enough to share, and we don't have a Patreon, so this feels appropriate.
I told you I was going to turn the tables. So.
Yeah, I was running and I was running in a park and all of a sudden, you know, it just was like, oh, this is happening right now. There was no, you know, debate. There was no like, I can hold off. It was not an option. And so I had to run into the woods. Luckily, I was in the section of it's like a 5-mile loop. And luckily it was next to the section with the woods, because there's a part that's next to a field that I would not have had a place to
or
go.
a subdivision. Some of it,
yes, some of it is next to the subdivision. So luckily it was in the woods, and it was fall. It was not winter, so there was like frost on the ground, not snow. So I was lucky in that regard.
It's a little less frost at the end of this story.
But it was terrifying because there was like, I could hear people talking and walking around me, you know, on the trail, because it's like there's only so many woods. You don't have that far you can go. And so you could hear people, and it was, the leaves had kind of fallen off the trees. So I didn't have a lot of like, you know, cover. And so I was just like, let's just do this as quickly as possible. And then I was done, and it was awful. And nobody happened upon me. So I cannot even imagine what you went through and or what you go through when that happens. I can't even wrap my head around that. It must be awful.
Yeah, but I know it's a little messed up, but I love hearing that story just because every runner has that. No one willingly tells that story. No one's like, do you want to hear about the time I almost pooped my pants on the run? The time I did? Like, no one offers that up at a party. But then you hear someone share that story, and then people are like, oh yeah, that's happened to me. When you've had that either happen or close to happening, and you have that moment of panic, that's Crohn's all the time. And I hate the idea that it's happening to other people. Like, I hate that happened to you, Crystal, but also cool. Like, I get it. And like, it's so hard to explain life with this disease in a way that's not gross. Like, I don't think poop jokes are funny. To this day, I have never once used the poop emoji on my phone. Like, I'm not offended. I just like, I don't know, like the scene in Bridesmaids that everyone thinks is hysterical. I'm like, oh, that's like, that was Tuesday. Like,
as Tom always says, it's just lazy. It's just lazy.
It's
lazy
like,
humor.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to go there, you need to bring equation. It's just lazy humor. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never like been one for poop jokes. Totally fine if other people think they're funny, but like, it's just not for me. But I have to talk about this stuff all the time because it's a really big part of my life. And all I want is for people to understand and be empathetic. And so I do care a lot about building awareness, mostly because like, I don't expect you to feel bad for me. I don't need your sympathy. All I want is if you are someone who controls a public restroom, let me use it when I ask. That is the only reason I care about spreading awareness, because the number of times I have been in an emergency situation and run into a store, a restaurant, whatever it is, and been denied the use of a restroom, probably 100 times. And
wow.
That is the worst. And I'm like, and that is so hard to explain to people. And, you know, actually, it's really cool that I've had people reach out to me that either follow me or listen to my podcast and are like, hey, I work at XYZ. And the rule here is we are not supposed to let people use our restroom. But the other day, a woman came in and asked if she could use it. And I thought of you and I said, sure. And I was like, yes, I did my job.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, it's like, you know, you don't think about those things if you're not a person who has Crohn's disease. So, you know, you think of it as people are going to go in the bathroom and do God knows what in there, you know, that's why I think that's where business owners are coming from, you know, and it's like, maybe they should have like a card that you can be like, I really need to, like, this is legit. I
have special dispensation.
Yeah. You know, so that you can, because you don't have time to explain it in that moment that like it's Crohn's and here's what this means and here's why it's important, because it's an emergency. So if you could just like flash them a card and walk in, that would be fabulous.
Yeah. So the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, I have a card.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which they do amazing work, they have cards that say like, it's an emergency. But I will tell you, you go into, and I'll give you an example. Starbucks is a popular repeat offender. I don't even bother at Starbucks anymore because you either need to buy something or there's a code or it's out of order. It's not out of order. Where are you going to the bathroom? But one time I was seriously, but I was outlet shopping once with my friend and we were in J. Crew. I will always remember. And I was like, I need a bathroom now. And I asked the woman, I'm like, can I use your bathroom? It's an emergency. And she was like, it's for employees only. You have to go down this street and around and block and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's an emergency. I have Crohn's disease. And she was just like, it's our policy. Like, just no humanity, right? No, like, And I get it. They don't want to get in trouble with their boss. Like I do understand that, but I just think we've gotten to such a place in society where restroom access is a privilege and not a right. And I think that's a real problem, not just for people with Crohn's, but for lots of different parts of the population. So anyway, that's my very long rant that I just want to spread awareness so that people understand what we're going through. The number of times I have been in public and I have lied and told people I am pregnant, because if you're pregnant, they will let you use their restroom. Crohn's, they don't know what that is, but pregnant. And I'm like, one of these days, it's going to be like someone who listens to the podcast and they're going to be like, oh my God, you're pregnant, or something, or like someone who's like friends with my mom and is going to be like, Lori, I saw Allison at the Dunkin' Donuts. I didn't know she's pregnant. And I'm going to get a call from my mom. Like, it's going to, but like sometimes I'll like hold my belly. I'm like, I'm so sorry, like clearly pregnant. And then if they're like, oh yeah, go ahead. I'm like, you think I look pregnant? What the hell? It's a lose for everyone. But sometimes it works.
You saved your dignity, but you lost your self-esteem.
and got a phone call from my mom. So.
So how did you become an announcer? You said you were announcing a race. How did that happen? Was that because of the podcast?
Kind of. I feel like everything I do at this point is intertwined. It all sort of comes back to running. So I joked a couple years ago saying that my dream is just to stand at a finish line and cheer for runners. And then I was like, wait, that's a job. Like that's what the announcers do. And this is when we were in New York City. Actually, we were living in New Jersey at the time. And New York is where New York Roadrunners is based. And that's who puts on lots and lots of races, including the New York City Marathon. And I am friends with a lot of people who work there or used to work there, including this wonderful woman named Christine Burke, who is one of the VPs at New York Roadrunners. And I said to her, I was like, my dream, I want to try race announcing. I was like, what do I have to do? Like, do I have to go back to college for this? And she was like, what? College? Like, no. But I didn't know. I was like, are there courses that you take? Like, how do you learn this masterful art of saying, good job? Like, where can I study this? Meanwhile, I've like run a million races at this point. Like, I don't know. Just imposter syndrome was something new. And she was like, yeah, let me talk to the team and see if we need any more announcers. And like New York Roadrunners has announcers. They have a team of like 12 that they rotate around all these races. But she vouched for me and gave my name to the events team, and they reached out and they were like, hey, we have a race this weekend, or like in a couple weeks, our first ever, the Newport 5K, I think it was in New Jersey, which was cool because I was living there. And they were like, we need another announcer. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so nervous. So I thought I would be like shadowing the other announcers. No, I was by myself at Race Day Central. They like hand me a rough script and they're like, yeah, like do whatever. And I'm like, what? Like you're just giving me a microphone and power? Like I'm going to be playing Family Feud up here before you know it. I was so nervous. And I guess I did okay because then they asked me to do more. And then I got to be one of the finish line announcers at the 2019 New York City Marathon, which was the last year that they had the New York City Marathon. So that was one of the best days of my life. Just, it literally is standing at the finish line and cheering for people and just seeing, it's magical. And I cry when I think about that day and those stories. So it's really cool. And then when we came up to New Hampshire, there was a running company up here called Millennium Running that they do a lot of the events in New Hampshire. And I ran one of their races, posted about it on Instagram being like, this was so fun. They shout out to Barry, who's their social media and marketing guy, like tapped through, saw my profile, was like, oh, she has a lot of followers. Oh, she has a podcast. Oh, she's a race announcer. And they reached out and were like, you want to announce our races? They had never had a female announcer at any of the races. So I am their first female announcer. I know. So that's fun. And now I'm with them. Like I do all of their races now, which is really fun. And so that is just a cool side hobby. I've met a lot of great people through it, but it's just, you get to be there on a really special day in people's lives, because whether it's a turkey trot that their family is doing together, or it's a marathon that they've trained for 6 months or a year, to get to be there on these special days in people's lives is so awesome. And look, let's be honest, no one cares about the race announcer. No one's like, you know what was great about that event? The announcer.
Until you say somebody's name wrong.
Oh, which we do. We hear for
There's
people.
no way you can't.
Yeah, there's
people.
too many names.
You're gonna
That's
screw
too
somebody's
many.
name.
I say, so my approach to that is I will always try my best and I will never not say your name because it looks too hard, because I think that that's unfair. So like,
Sure.
which is hard at the New York City Marathon with a massive international field.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like some of the names coming up there, I'm like, there's no vowels. I don't know what to do with this, but I will always try, because I would rather try and recognize you and honor you than ignore you. I always apologize if I get it wrong. People are funny. If there's a hard name and it's a smaller race in New Hampshire and I say someone's name, I'll joke. I'll be like, did I get it right? Was I close? And they'll be like, eh. But if it's a hard name and you get it right, you made their day. Like people they fived me. It makes their day. And so, yeah, I'm well aware that no one actually cares about the announcers. It's just something that I think is really fun. And I love getting to be there. And especially because my stomach has been kind of a mess lately. I don't really get to run these races. I just don't trust that my stomach's going to hold up for a half marathon, but then I still get to be there and feel the runner's high. You know, I wasn't good in science, but I think that's osmosis. I feel like it's a similar thing.
I think you're right. And I only know that because there was a cartoon called Osmosis Jones, and that's how it worked.
That's how it works.
Chris Rock and Bill Murray.
How old are you? I've never heard of such a thing.
I'm 50. It's from like late 90s. They turned it into a Saturday morning cartoon.
She said you're old.
I know I'm old.
I'm like trying to joke, but I'm really not good at like making fun of people. Like that's so not my natural type of humor, is like, I'll try to like make a joke at someone's expense and I'm immediately like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Like I didn't mean to be mean. I was just trying to be funny. Like, are you mad at me? So
I'm
so
really
sorry.
good at it. So you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta.
It's hard to insult.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I have
I will
this
keep
innate
trying.
ability. I can say like the rudest thing to somebody ever, and they'll just laugh.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
I'm like you, Allie. I can't say anything to people. If I try to make a joke, people are like, I don't know. There's something about my face whenever I say it, and Tom can say anything to people, and they're laughing. I don't know. It's a gift.
I think it's just white privilege.
Sexism. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
it's
honestly.
a dash of that. Yeah, a dash of that. Yeah. So it's one of the perks. You know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
They're not laughing at all. They're just socialized that way. That's what I'll find out on my deathbed. They'll be like, oh my God, I was a dick the whole time. I thought I was charming, son of a bitch. I was just gonna ask what your leaderboard name was.
Allie on the Run one.
Oh, somebody
That is
beat
my
you
name
to it?
on everything.
Oh, okay. Okay. We got somebody.
Well, I didn't
stole
even
it.
check on Peloton. No. So, I mean, I'm sure she's lovely. When I joined Twitter, I think it was Twitter that I must have joined first because that was before Instagram. I joined Twitter and Allie on the Run was taken. So I had to be Allie on the Run 1. And then I just wanted to keep it consistent across all the platforms. So I'm Allie on the Run 1 on Instagram. There is an Allie on the Run. She's private. Based on her profile photo, I believe she is a mom who runs, because I think her picture is like her with kids, or that's in her bio or something. She gets tagged a lot of people.
She's like, what is that?
In post. Yeah, she's like, I don't host a podcast. Like, please stop. But you know, I've been Allie on the Run 1 since 2009 or whatever now, so I'm very used to it. But I'm also Allie on the Run 1 on Peloton.
Awesome. That's great. And do you have any advice for people just getting started with running, just getting started with Peloton?
Yeah, same advice for both is make sure that it's fun for you. I hear from people all the time who are like, I really want to be a runner, but I hate running. And I'm like, then pick something else. Like, you don't have to do this thing that you hate. I think the easiest way to stay motivated to do something is to make sure it's the thing that you like, but also to not focus on the numbers, the metrics, the people around you. I think whether it's a race or a run or the leaderboard, it's really easy to get caught up in where you stand in the numbers, in the paces, in the distance. There's always someone to compare yourself to, including your past self and your future self. I think that the best thing you can do for yourself is to stay in the present moment. Know that every day is going to feel different. Know that there are going to be great days on the run and days that your landscaper catches you pooping in the bushes. And so, you know, just take them as they come.
Words to live by.
Yeah, I feel like that
Yeah,
should be on a
right?
bumper sticker.
Well, in my bio.
It should.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and spending so much time with us. Just remind everybody where they can find you before we let you go.
Yeah, Allie on the Run 1 everywhere on social, and the Allie on the Run Show podcast, which is on all major podcasting platforms. It's on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. My blog is my website, I guess, is allieontherunblog.com, because again, Allie on the Run was taken. So Allie on the Run blog, which is like so dated now, but whatever. So yeah, check me out, follow along the show. I promise it appeals to all runners. You don't have to follow professional running. You don't have to be any type of runner. My goal with the show is that everyone in this community feels seen and represented and welcomed, and that if you run, you are a runner. You get to own that title for life, and would love to have you.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I guess that brings this episode to a close. What, pray tell, do you have in store for people next week?
Next week, we are going to talk to Jennifer Barker. She has created the group, Muscles, Milestones, and Motivation. And I may not be saying the 3 M's in the right order, but
they're all in there somewhere.
They're in there. And we're
Okay.
going to hear all about why. And this group is amazing and has grown super fast. So lots to hear about.
Awesome. Well, until then, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, the bike, and of course the tread at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online at facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group. Don't forget our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Clip Out, where you can watch all the episodes in their entirety. And of course, sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pedaling
And running.
Clip in, set yourself free.